What's up, guys? Welcome back to the build series with the Tekno EB48 2.1. This is part 2, and we are jumping in bag E, F, G, and H. Let's get into it. Part 1, we knocked out A, B, C, and D. So now we're going to be finishing up the front and rear clips, putting the arms on, front caster block spindle assembly, rear hub assembly on the rear arms. So here, doing bag E, which is the rear end. Go ahead, open all these baggies up. All right. Clip these trees. Get the A-arms all freed up. There we go. And open up the inserts. I'm just going to go ahead, clip off the ones that I'm going to be needing. For the setup that I'm going to be putting on. There we go. There we go. Alright, so I think first things first here, just to kind of get rid of some of the parts that we laid out. I'm going to go ahead and just start putting some of these things together, like the sway bar mounts and things. When you pop these sway bar balls in, pretty much all plastic pieces, when you see them, you'll see like a little ring around one side. One side won't have any ring around. You always want to pop the balls in on the side that has the little like molding ring that you can see. These are the same top to bottom, so it doesn't matter which ball you pop in to which side. They're the same. We'll go ahead, mount these to the rear arm. Make sure not to screw those in all the way and strip your arm out. Go ahead, put these arm inserts in. There we go, nice and good there. I'm going to put the droop screw in. You'll notice one side of these button head screws has like a Allen key in there, and that's to fit a 2.0 to set your droop, which is pretty cool. So We'll screw these in from the bottom side. Put it right to about flush. Move over to the next arm. You screw these in to the bottom side of the arm, because the button head side of the screw is what hits the chassis to set the droop. Put this other sway bar mount on the other arm. Go ahead and use my drill, I guess. Try not to go all the way in so I don't strip anything. That's tight. Arm inserts. Boom, boom. Oh yeah. Now, I like to do a little bit of motor spray. Clean the oil off the new hinge pins. There we go, nice and smooth. I like to check these. Sometimes when you put these inserts in, you might not get them perfectly straight and they'll be a little bit twisted, but you want the hinge pin to fall right through. So that's what we're looking for. Both hinge pins are good and free there. So now we'll go to the C and D blocks. C block, I run the wide pivot setup. So I use a single all the way outside dot to give me the wide pivot on my C. Then for the D, run the double down, or the double dot down with it all the way to the outside, so the wide pivot. So I keep it in the center configuration, which gives me 2.5 degrees of toe, but I do the wide pivot, so I'm on the outside of the pills. Alright. Put the C block on. Finish off with my hand here. There we go. Now, got the right arm. Now putting the left arm on. Now here, I'm going to get some shims to add to the back side of my rear arms to tighten up some of the extra play that they give you. Should have had these all ready to go, but I didn't. Alright, let me find some shims. I like to get two of my thicker shims, like a 0.3 or a, not a 0.3, 0.03. Normally have 0.01, 0.02, 0.03. These clutch shims. Alright. There you one more. There we go. Alright. Got my shims ready. Tekno just kind of builds a lot of extra play into the movement front to back of the A-arms, a little bit more than I like. So I add some shims. They're the large size clutch shims. Put 2 on each side. And then it's a little, oh, there we go. It's a little, you know, these inserts are a little tight when they're new. To get the hinge pin to pop in. Ah, there we go. Got that side and that side. Let's check that play. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Exactly what we want. A little bit of up and down play, but not too much. Put our screw into the D block back there. Boom, there we go. Feel it after it's all tightened down. Got some forward and back movement still. Perfect. It's exactly what we want. All right. That looks good there. I'm going to go ahead put these set screws into the sway bar collars here. Just going to use the plastic sway bar collars. They work great. You can get the aluminum ones if you want, but I personally don't really have issues with the plastic ones. I am going to put some blue Loctite on these set screws that are going to go in the ball out here at the mount. When you put Loctite on, you want to run it through your fingers so that you don't make a big mess. There we go. Second one here. Run it through my fingers. Put it in the ball. Alright, so we got a 2.5 rear bar going on. Alright, gonna tighten the collar on. This is where you just don't want to over tighten these. Strip these out. That's where I think a lot of people kind of get in trouble with these plastic ones, is they just simply strip them out. But you just got to be patient, take your time. You can feel it when it really starts snugging up. I try to get these angles matching because that set screw does push up against the sway bar, so I always like this angle to be matching side to side. And you want to make sure your sway bar floats up and down nice and free, doesn't have side to side movement. You don't want it to be completely squished up against the bearings. Just a little, you know, if you have to have a little bit of play, just a tiny bit of side to side movement, but nothing too much, or else your sway bar won't be working correctly. There we go. Rear arms are on. Sway bar is on. So that was bag E. we'll jump in start bag F. This is the rear hubs. The 2.1 car has different rear arm, different rear hubs, also a different C and D block. The width is the same, but the blocks are -1 mil, so they're 1 mil lower, which you'll see they each have one little dot on them. Tekno sells a -2, which will have 2 dots. And then the C block is designed a little bit different, has these 2 extra screws that mount through the chassis. But the rear arm and the rear hub is actual different geometry, so a little longer rear arm and a little bit less offset rear hub. And what's sweet about the 2.1 is it comes with universals, which is nice. 2.0 came with CVs, and we always kind of switched over to the universals. So it's nice when you buy this car. It comes with the unis, so you don't need to buy any extra drivetrain parts because those can be expensive. I like to always take the extra material off if it's kind of still on there a little bit from the tree. Let's make it a little bit cleaner. There we go. Make sure I'm not throwing away any actual parts. Go ahead and put the bearings in. Another cool thing, when you had to buy unis and your car came with CVs, you had to buy different bearings on the inside for the hub, but these have the correct bearings because it comes with the unis, which is awesome. Get those in there. Got another step coming up that we will jump into in a second. Clip these shims off. The rear arm is not quite as wide at the hub, so it uses a little less shimming, just 3 mil of shimming. So I'll get my shims ready. Whoops. Use a 2 mil and a 1 mil. So got those cut. And use the center height 3-hole for the rear hub. Yeah, some different options. High and a low, and a middle 2-hole, and then these ones I took out are the 3-hole option. And then the high and the low have the 3 and the 2. You just flip them over depending on what locations you want to use. So we're using the middle height 3-row. Go ahead, pop those bad boys in. Get this hub pretty much ready to go. Boom, there we go. Gonna need a drill. Go ahead, get a couple pieces that I'm gonna need. Gonna need some turnbuckles. Gonna build this bad boy with some Lunsford titanium turnbuckles here. Oh yeah. All right, so first step I'm going to do is go to put this hinge pin in, and these hubs are a little tight on the hinge pin, so I drill these out. I use a 964 drill bit. run it through a few times. Like I said in other parts of these videos, the Tekno material is a little bit softer, a little bit different than some of the other manufacturers. So sometimes you will have a hard time reaming out the plastic. It will kind of go back to the original size where it's kind of sticky. This one seems like it did free up pretty good, but if you are having a hard time, one trick that I have found that works good is to put the plastic part in the freezer. You put it in there for 15 minutes or so. Right when you pull it out, ream out your hole, and the material seems like it reams a little bit better when it's colder. There we go. I think we should be good on that one. When it's warm, it's a little hard to tell. Let's check this one again. You want the hinge pins to just fall right through. That one seems good. Yeah, see this one? We're still a little sticky. I think I saw a little bit more material sliding out that time. I think we're going to be a little bit better. Let's see. Yeah, see this one's giving me a little bit more fits. Still a little sticky. I think it's gonna feel better. Let's let that one cool down a little bit. That one still feels good. We'll go ahead, put the uni through. 2.1 comes with +1 hexes, which is pretty awesome. We pretty much always have ran +1 hexes, so works out good that the kit comes with them. Get a little bit better clearance with the inside spokes of your wheel with hitting like the nuts for the outer hinge pin. Alright, put some blue Loctite on my set screws that are going to hold my hexes on. So these pins have a groove in them. You want that groove facing up. Go through. There we go. You can use a wheel wrench too. My wheel wrench isn't in my toolbox, so I got creative and used the shock pliers there. Oh, let's check this hinge pin now. Let this materials cool down. Let's see. Man, it's still just a little sticky. There we go. Falling right through. That's what we want to see. We'll go ahead, put a nut on that side. put this uni through. Sometimes parts are different. When you're building these cars, you want to take your time. It's not a race putting them together. And don't just say, oh, it will free up, because I will tell you that that will never free up. If you start with that tight, it will not free up, and that will hurt your handling. And if you're building a new car, spent all this money, got all this nice stuff, you might as well build it correctly so that you can properly enjoy your RC experience. I'm going to go ahead and pop all these balls into the turnbuckle ends here, the rod ends. You want to find the side that has the molding ring, and you pop them in through that side. Anytime you pop these in and out, you always want to go through the same side. So that's a good way to remember which way that you go through as well. There we go. Awesome. We might as well build some turnbuckles. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a turnbuckle here. I'm going to use a little bit of grease. Put some grease on the threads. Grab a couple open-end wrenches and start threading these on. With the rear, both sides are going to be the same as far as your ends, so it's not a big deal which side you start with. I'll explain here in a second what I'm talking about. You want to try to get these on as straight as you can. Once you get a couple turns in, you can kind of mess with them, but pretty straight there. Can actually use, these are the Tekno turnbuckle wrenches. The large size on one of them actually fits right over the rod end, which works out nice. I like to thread mine kind of right till about the end of the threads, just so I can tell that these things are centered. The turnbuckle is centered in the rod end. Alright. A little crooked. There you go. Make sure you're good and straight. You know which direction you're going. Nice. There we go. Now I'll look to try to see, make sure my turnbuckle is nice and centered in between the two rod ends. So I look at how much thread I have showing. Pretty darn close there. We got one done. So if these were different rod ends on each side, you want to make sure that your direction's going the right way. Most turnbuckles will have some type of marking on one side. As you can see, the Tekno ones have a marking on one side. You want to run your markings all going the same direction on all your turnbuckles so that you know forward, goes in or out, back goes in or out. So I run all my markings towards the left side of the car. So forward tightens up all my turnbuckles. So I know if I go forward, it will tighten them up. If I go back, it will open the turnbuckle up, making it longer. Alright, so we got one done there. Now let's move on to the next. A little bit of grease. I use O-ring grease. Some people use like chapstick or something like that. I don't know. I just use O-ring grease. This seems like it works pretty good. Just go a couple turns in. As you can see it's crooked. So now I'll just straighten it up some. When you're first trying to put it on, if you try to straighten it too much, you'll have a hard time actually getting it to thread on. So I just go a couple turns and then you can straighten it, and then you can see it's good and straight now. Use my bigger wrench, get this thing on. Oh yeah, there we go. I'm not going to worry too much about measuring these or anything before I put them on the car. I'll do that when I'm done. When the car's all done and I'm setting the camber and stuff, I'll measure the links. Make sure they start out close to the same. I'm not too crazy about measuring my links and making sure they're exactly the same, because sometimes when the screw goes through these mounts for the inner camber link, sometimes, you know, the screws aren't super tight and they'll kind of be a little bit off, and I feel like if I'm all worried about making sure that the camber link lengths are exactly the same side to side, that my camber is actually a little bit off side to side. So I don't worry about that too much. It's a good starting position just to make sure that they're the same, and then you kind of go from there. Some people are really particular on measuring their camber links. I'm just not, me personally. Alright, we are close. Just need like a half turn. Half turn, and there we go. I think I'm gonna do one more half turn actually. There we go. Nice and centered. So we are about ready to put on the rear hubs. So just like the arm inserts that go in the arms for the inner hinge pins, the 2.1 has outer hinge pin arm inserts. So we'll go ahead, put those in. There we go. Like I was saying, the material with the Teknos is a little different. So the hinge pins actually were kind of binding in some of the arms when we were doing some initial testing. And so that's why we have these inserts, so that going through bumps and rough sections and stuff like that, when the arms flex, the hinge pins aren't binding up because they're through those steel inserts. So that's a pretty cool feature. Alright, next thing is putting the hubs on. I'm going to run my hubs all the way forward. So like I said, there's 3 mil of shims. I'm going to go all 3 mil in the back. Trying to do it so I don't put my hands all in front of everything, but it's a little bit odd. There we go. So, got my hub in the full forward position. Go ahead, tighten up those nuts on both sides of the hinge pin. go. That hub rotating nice and free. Now I'll go ahead and put the camber link on. So I'm going to put mine center row, one from bottom. I'm going to use the longer screw that is provided. Go screw one of these steel shims, a steel shim, and then they give you these little aluminum countersink washers, and we actually use that to space the camber link off the rear tower. So you put the countersink towards the shock tower, and then we put the turnbuckle on. Make sure your indentation is going the correct way. So mine is going towards the left side of the car. And I'm going to use an additional steel shim, and then the flange nut. I believe the kit says to use a shorter screw for the inside, but I add that extra steel washer and I want a little bit extra room there on the threads. So I use a longer screw on the inside, and then I will use the shorter screw for the outside. And with that, I need just a standard nut, which I have some extra ones right here. Voila. Get me some extra steel washers because I'll probably need them later. Alright, so I use just the regular non-flange nut. I don't feel like you really need a flange nut there. So if you have extra screws, you could use another longer screw on the outside and use a flange nut. I just use the regular nut. It all fits in there really good. Alright, one side's on. Let's move on to the right side of the car. I'm gonna have 2 extra flange nuts. Oh, I had 2 extra nuts right there. That's alright. Alrighty. So, let's start with the hub. We got our 3 mil of shim. I do the little shim first, the big shim next, just because it's easier to stay on the hinge pin that way. Just a little tip. Alright, put that hinge pin through. Put the nut on. There we go. And see, I try to free up the hub because these hinge pins don't seem like they really are like super free through these bushings here. So I like to do it through the hub and make sure that the hinge pin is free on the hub side. Alright, so now we are going to do the last camber link. Make sure your direction indentation is going the correct way, which I have it going the correct way. Put my spacer on. flange nut on that side. There we go. And outer camber link screw going in with the standard nut. Whoa! Flung that wrench right off. Alright, we're back in action. Not sure what even happened right there, but the wrench went fine. There we go. Nice and free. I like to do a little test like that where you're just barely changing the angle, making sure those arms are always free. And just like that, the rear end, rear clip is pretty much done. Alright. Let's keep it nice and tidy over here while we're building. So we did E, F, now we're knocking out bag G. There we go. Clipping all the little trees off. Alright. Hinge pins. A and B block. Sway bar parts. Front sway bar. Kit comes with a 2.3. I'm actually going to be putting on a 2.2. So if I was fully prepared, I would have that out, but I don't. So I'm going to have to go find one. Alright, we got all of our pieces out. Now let's start just putting some of this stuff together like we did on the rear end. Just get some of the pieces off the table. Get the sway bar mounts going. Remember, put the balls through the side with the mold ring marks. There we go. Nice, nice. I'll go ahead, get the pieces that I need, the inserts that I need, I guess I should say. I do my front, I think, exactly how the kit says. We'll have to open up the kit manual here, see what it says, but I think I run my front pills the same as the manual. As you can tell, I don't really use the manual when I build a car. The Tekno manuals are really good though, so if you're gonna use a manual, the Tekno one's a good one to use. Yep, A block, center, and all the way up. B block, center, center. That's how I run my car. So that's what I was going to do. So B block, center, center. And if you have a 2.0 and you're asking yourself, why did we raise up the front hinge pins? We didn't. These blocks are a -1, So they have the one little indentation, just like the C and D. So you can keep track and know that these are -1. So you can use 2.0 0 blocks. No geometry change on the front arms or the A and B block, other than they just got lowered a little bit, 1 millimeter. Alright, gonna put the set screws in here. You want to put your set screw in the same side. So I go in the side that's not open. You can see there's a open side there. I go in the side that's not open. Some blue Loctite on the set screws that are going to go in the sway bar mounts. So when you put Loctite on, run your finger over the Loctite. There we go. Let's get this other one. This one kind of ran through already. That's why I almost put it through there without touching it with my finger, but it had kind of already done its job. Alright, so front arms, we are going to put the inserts in, and you'll notice if you had a 2.0, we got some extra clearance going on right here for the Ackerman screw, and then you have some extra clearance right here for your wheel clearance when you go full lock. So that's pretty cool. They did some mold modification there for the 2.1. So the 2.0 and the 2.1, whoa, being a bit sloppy. The 2.0 and the 2.1 front arms, geometry wise, are exactly the same, but the 2.1 just has those couple modifications with some added clearance and stuff like that. So you can run a 2.0 front arm if you have spares or something. Oh, I should finish that first arm. Working on the right front arm. Go ahead, put the droop screw in. It's got the Allen key opening on both sides, which is cool. Button head side is used up against the chassis though. Alright, now we'll move on to the next arm. We're just knocking through these bags. This kit's coming together nicely. Can't wait to get it out on the track soon for a test drive. Have this baby ready to rip for AMS. Should be an awesome race. Alright, there we go, there we go. So now we're going to grab the front end, put these sway bar bearings on. You'll notice it has the new rubber sealed sway bar bearings that Tekno released, which is pretty nice. We're going to put the B block on first. I think all these screws are the same size. Yep. There we go. Alright, B block is on. Gonna get some motor spray. A little bit on my rag the machine oil off the hinge pins. Alright. All nice and clean. Let's check to make sure our hinge pins are free in the front arms. Seam free. We do the tilt test. I'm a hot mess right now. Thankfully this is my car. You know, for dropped hinge pins, the worst thing that's going to happen to this car, I'd say this car is going to live a very nice life. If I can find the hinge pin. Boom! There we go. Alright. I'm getting too worked up. It's probably because it was just Halloween. I had a bunch of candy. So I'm all jacked up on candy right now. Alright. A-arms are on. So it's kind of opposite to the rear end because we put the front on at the end. I'm going to grab some more clutch shims because I need to shim these arms as well. Alright, I'm just getting a bunch of them out so I can find which ones I need. Pretty much the same as the rear end. I use two of the thicker shims that I can find. There we go. Like I said, it would be nice if I could do this before I start videoing, but I always forget about it. Ah, there's one. I got one matching set. I think. Alright. So we put some shims on. Thick one. I'm gonna add, yeah, that's good. Let's try that. Put the A-block on. Push it all the way on. Yep, that's pretty good. A little bit of play up and down. Not bad. Pretty good. I just don't like it when it's like super sloppy. So once you do a good couple endos, crease in your hinge pin inserts a little bit, it kind of changes some. But whenever you're rebuilding your car, taking your clips off and stuff like that, I always recommend having your shocks off the car, so then you can feel your suspension arms free without shocks. You can feel that play forward and back, and just something to always keep an eye on in car maintenance, because all that stuff makes a big difference. Your arms being free, your sway bars being free, your hubs being free, things like that. I always get questions like setup things like, oh, my car is loose. How do I get more grip? So many people are always saying their car's loose, they need more grip. A lot of times, a loose car is just kind of a messed up car. A lot of times it can be this right here to where this thing's all bound up, so your car is loose. It can be A-arms, it can be hubs, it can be sway bars. Yeah, it can be a bunch of stuff. Alright, so now we're going to jump into the front sway bar. I need a 2.2. Get my parts box. Find my front sway bars. And hope that there's a 2.2 in here. There probably is. Maybe. Hopefully. Oh, 2.2. There we go. What do the cool kids say? Let's go. That's what my 8-year-old son says, at least. Oh. Oh, what my deal is today. Just a hot mess. There we go. There we go. Alright, so now I have my 2.2. We're going to go ahead and bolt this baby up. Try to get the sway bar nice and centered. And the mount, I think I'm definitely not centered, so I'm gonna have to adjust that some. There we go. Try to keep my angle the same side to side here. See that? I got it a little too tight up against the bearings. So which side do I want to move? I want to move this side. You don't want to over tighten these. It's actually not too tight on the bearings. I don't know why this thing's a little bit bound up seeming. Alright, got it just about on, I think. Let's see, maybe there was something on there. It just seems like when I put this side on, it's tight in the bearing. It's like that plastic mount is just a little bit oversized, it seems like. I think it's gonna be alright. I mean, it won't fall. Oh, there we go. It's falling down on itself now. So, I think we're good there. It's got a little side to side. It's freed up now. Sometimes you just gotta move those around. Alright. Sway bar is just about on. There we go. Do a little tilt test. Oh yeah, arms are super free. That's what we want to see. Now, last bag for this part, bag H. So these are the front caster blocks, spindle assembly. 2.1 buggies have a new spindle and caster block design. So if you bought the updated spindles for the 2.0 with the 0 incline, they are going to be different for the 2.1. So spindle is completely different, caster block is completely different, not compatible with the 2.1. All right. Let's get everything opened up here. Voila, voila. All right. Just like the rear, 2.1s comes with unis for the front as well, with the correct bearings. No added purchases there. We'll go ahead, put the bearings in, put the drive shafts through. Let's find our set screws, because we're going to need some blue Loctite to put our hexes on. We got +1 hexes for the front as well. All right. Just like on the rear, your pins have that groove in them. You want the groove facing up. Slide it through. That set screw goes right in that groove, so that if that set screw does loosen up a little bit, that pin can't just come out. That set screw's got to loosen up quite a bit to kind of come out of that groove. So that's pretty cool. Now, let's find this other pin. Set screw here. Run the Loctite through my finger. After you run the Loctite screw over your finger, you want to wipe your finger off too, so you don't get that Loctite somewhere. All right, drive shafts are through the spindles. All right, guys, we're back. We got the spindles all completed. We got the unis installed. So now I'm going to go ahead and put the steering plates on. The kit comes with B plates, but I run the C plates. So we're going to go ahead and put these on. Alright, so you want to make sure you got these going the right direction. There are these 4 button head screws right here. I'm just going to get these started by hand. There we go. Not going all the way down. Alright, we got one on. If you're ever wondering how you can tell these steering plates apart. They got these little grooves or slots or whatever you want to call. So the A will have 1 slot, the B will have 2, and then the C will have 3. So pretty easy way to identify the different steering plates. Nice little touch there. Alright, getting the right side on. And these steering plates are the same steering plates that were used on like the zero incline spindles for the 2.0. So if you have those steering plates, those are the same steering plates, but the spindle is not the same. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the spindle in the caster block, and you have these different bushings and pins, and these are color coded, where you have black and silver. You got pins and bushings. There we go. Getting all of our different pieces together here. Gonna get the screws that we're gonna use. These are 5mm screws. I'm gonna go ahead, put some blue Loctite on these to get them ready. Alright, so the 2.0, you had bearings in the caster block, a screw that threaded into the spindle, and if you weren't super careful with that, you had some set screws that would lock into the screw. If you were not that careful, and if you took those apart a bunch, they were kind of a mess. A lot of people stripped them out. So they came up with a different design that's pretty cool, and the axle height is adjustable. So that's what these bushings are for. The silver is the thin, and the black is the thick. So we are going to have axle height in the low position. So the silver goes down. And then basically, with these pins that go through, you just want to keep them going to the same color. So the silver pin goes to the silver bushing, and the black pin goes to the black bushing. And then you put the screw in, you line the pin up with the flat spot. Then you do the black pin with the black bushing. And the way these bushings and everything work, you just have the pin all the way down, and you just put the screw right in, and it's gonna butt right up against the caster block, and it's gonna hit the pin kind of right at the same time. Has the perfect amount of up and down play. It's nice and free. Boom, just like that. We got the right side done. We'll jump in, do the left side. So if you're wanting to raise your axle, you would put the black on the bottom, silver on top, and then just use the correct pins. And you can do another adjustment there. So we got silver at the bottom. Put that in. Get this screw. There we go. Get that one tight. Check it. Nice and free. That's good to go right there. So now let's pop these balls in. For our front camber link, we'll go ahead and just knock those turnbuckles out. Oh, I got one more screw. We'll go ahead and knock those turnbuckles out so that when we put these caster blocks on the front arms, that we can just put it all together. There we go. Move these washers to the side. Add some Loctite to that last screw. Get my grease back out. Get my nice Lunsford turnbuckle. And now with this, we have two different style rod ends. So this goofy looking one is going to go on the caster block side. So now we do need to pay attention on what direction. So this will be a left front. Get a little more grease. So you got to pay a little attention to make sure that you put them going the correct way. Just gonna have a couple threads on, a couple turns on. Make sure I'm all straight. Looking pretty good. Unfortunately, with this one, you can't put a wrench on, but you can put a wrench in the ball. Use that. Alright, got one side. Couple turns. There we go. Where's my... Ah, here it is. Get this other side. So once I get this one on, I know this is going to be my left side turnbuckle. Make sure I get it nice and centered. Looks pretty good. Need to rotate it just a little bit more. There we go. Nice and centered in between the rod ends. So I got my marking. So that's going to go left side. So now I got to do right side. So I put my grease on my marking side, which will go towards the tower. So I need the standard rod end. A little more grease. Sometimes these things are hard to get that first bite. Got to put some pressure on it. There we go. Nice and straight. Alright, there's one side. Get some good grease and work on the next side. There we are. everything went on really nice and straight right from the get-go. Put my wrench through. Try to get it nice and lined up. I think I need half a turn. Oh, wrong way. That looks pretty good to me. Nice and centered. Alright, both turnbuckles are done. That was pretty easy. Put that grease away. And now, got to clean up my work area a little bit. Trying to keep it as tidy as possible. There we go. We're looking good. I'm gonna bring the front end in. Oh yeah, we looking good. We'll do the right side first here. So just like the 2.0, you have the pins going through the arm into the caster block. But instead of the set screws, it is using these M3 by 5 mil screws. So we got some blue Loctite on them. Tighten them down. They'll tighten right up against the flat spot, which is nice. Whoop. There we go. Can't tighten it down if it's the spindles all turned because there's some plastic there catching. And those you can pretty much hold in and tighten as well, and you'll have just the right amount of play there. Tighten both of those. So now let's put the drive shaft in, and we'll go ahead and put the link on. So this is the right side, so I got my indentation going towards the left side of the car. The mounting position that I'm going to use, I'm pretty sure is the same as what the kit is going to recommend. Let's check on that. Pretty sure it is. I'm going to go inside row, middle location, and on the tower, and all the way outside on the caster block. So, yep. We're going to go screw, steel shim, and then here you need to make sure that this is going the correct angle. So it's going to go flat and then bump up into the spindle or into the caster block to lower this down. If you put it this way, it actually raises the turnbuckle up and your wheel will rub right there. So you want to have it where it goes down so you have the clearance of the wheel. So you make sure that's correct. I do another steel shim and then a flange nut. I'll do the same thing on the outside. So outside location, screw in, steel shim, turnbuckle, steel shim, and a flange nut. Awesome. If you notice, I don't do any Loctite on these screws. I feel like on the Nylock nuts that Loctite doesn't really, I don't know, doesn't really do anything. and I find that these Tekno nuts, for some reason, kind of will loosen up sometimes. So when I'm racing, before the mains, just kind of every once in a while, even before every run, I check these, and then before the mains, I always put just a little dab of glue on the back of the nut over the screw. Just feel like these nuts just kind of loosen up for some reason. So not really sure why. I've tried Loctite, and just hasn't really helped me at all. So make sure you check those nuts quite a bit. So it's both sides of the front camber link and then the inside of the rear. Just seem like they'll loosen up on you. Alright, jumped ahead of myself a little bit on this side because we don't have the caster block on yet, but that's okay. We'll go ahead and put the caster block on now. Same thing, got the 2 pins. Oops. And these clips are just coming together. They're about done. Start working on the chassis here soon. There we go. Got those in. Both are tight. Nice and free. Outside position. Steel shim. Steel shim. And nut. Flange nut. All right. Whoop. That's a wrap on, I don't know what bag is that, H? Bag H. So there we are. Front and rear clips all done. That was part 2. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Keep an eye out for part 3, and watch part 3 and the rest of this build series to see this Tekno EB48 2.1 go from kit to finish to hitting the track and then racing it at AMS. Thanks for watching, guys.